All right, today we're diving into the very first chapter of The Uprooted Chinar. Now, this book sets out to trace the history of Kashmir from the Kashmiri Pandit perspective. And chapter 1 goes way, way back, right to the very beginning. We're talking about the legends and the evidence that, according to the text, establish the ancient indigenous Hindu roots of the valley. Let's get right into it.
So the book opens by painting this incredible picture of Kashmir. It's not just a place on a map, but a timeless, almost mythical paradise. You can just imagine these rugged mountains, the lush green valleys, and these crystal clear lakes. The author argues that this landscape isn't just geography, it's the very soul of a deep spiritual and cultural legacy.
So where does a story like this even begin? Well, according to the ancient Hindu texts cited in the book, it all starts with a divine act of creation. An event that frames the valley as a sacred homeland from the very moment it was born.
One of the key texts, the Nilamata Purana, tells this really dramatic story. Picture this, a huge lake called Satisar is being terrorized by a demon. So a great sage, Kashyapa, pleads with the gods to do something, and it's Lord Vishnu himself who steps in. With his divine power, he literally pierces the mountains, drains the entire lake, and reveals this stunning, fertile paradise, a land that would eventually be named in the sage's honor, Kashmir.
And here's where things get really interesting. This ancient story has a fascinating modern echo. The book points out that geologists have actually found evidence of a massive prehistoric lake in Kashmir's plateaus. And get this, they believe it was drained by a tectonic event right at the Baramulla Gorge. It's an absolutely remarkable parallel, isn't it? The ancient myth and the geological record telling the exact same core story.
Okay, so the land is formed, but who were the very first people to call this new paradise home? Well, this brings us to the story of the valley's original inhabitants.
The legend continues that after this divine act, sage Kashyapa invited a group known as the Saraswata Brahmins, who are seen as guardians of Vedic knowledge, to come and settle this new land. And the book makes a really crucial claim right here, that these very Brahmins were the foundational people who over time evolved directly into the Kashmiri Pandit community we know today.
This quote from the book just illustrates the core argument so perfectly. The author uses this powerful metaphor of the Chinar tree, with its deep, unshakable roots, to describe the Pandits' connection to Kashmir. It's a bond that's presented as ancient, incredibly resilient, and, most importantly, fundamentally indigenous. Now, out of these ancient Vedic foundations, a really unique spiritual path began to blossom, Kashmiri Shaivism. But this didn't just pop up overnight. The book traces its roots all the way back, thousands of years, to the Indus Valley civilization. It shows this incredible evolution over millennia that finally culminates in the 8th century, when this philosophy becomes the defining spiritual identity of Kashmir. To make this history feel real and tangible, the book asks us to just imagine what daily life was like for a Pandit family back in the 9th century. You see, Shaivism wasn't some abstract academic idea. It was completely woven into the fabric of their everyday lives, in the rituals they performed at dawn, the offerings at their home altars, and the stories they told their kids. The valley's reputation as this incredible hub of spirituality and intellect was, according to the source, cemented by the visit of one of the most influential figures in all of Hindu history. And that figure was Adi Shankaracharya. This man was a brilliant philosopher who traveled all over India to re-establish Vedic thought. His core philosophy, Advaita Vedanta, teaches the ultimate oneness of your individual soul with the divine, a pretty profound concept that would find a very receptive audience in Kashmir. So, according to the historical accounts, Shankaracharya's grand intellectual tour across India had one final, ultimate destination, Kashmir. There, he visited the legendary university temple, Sharadapith, and he achieved the ultimate feat, ascending the throne of omniscience, something that was reserved for only the most enlightened masters.
So here's the key takeaway. Shankaracharya's triumph wasn't just a personal victory for him. The book argues it was a powerful affirmation of Kashmir's status as the supreme center of Hindu learning. It basically validated its unique traditions and integrated them into the broader Indian spiritual landscape.
Now, beyond the myths and the historical accounts, the book presents one final, very tangible layer of evidence to support its claims of an unbroken lineage: archaeology. Archaeological sites like Burzahom and Gufkral, which date all the way back to 3000 BCE, they reveal this ancient settled society,
We're seeing pit dwellings, domesticated animals, even ritual practices that seem to foreshadow later Vedic rites. But here's the crucial finding. The layers in the soil show continuous cultural development, with no evidence of any major breaks or foreign invasions.
And the book connects these findings directly back to its central thesis. It argues that this archaeological record points to a completely organic evolution, from these earliest ancient settlers straight through to a formalized Hindu identity, with the Pandits as their direct cultural and spiritual descendants.
So we've gone through this deep, deep history, from divine creation all the way to archaeological proof. But this all begs a really critical question. Why does this ancient past matter so much in the here and now, in the context of modern-day Kashmir?
And here is the book's direct answer. It presents this entire body of evidence to make a very clear, very forceful point that Kashmiri Pandits are the indigenous people of the valley. Full stop. This is positioned as a direct counter-argument to what it describes as modern, distorting narratives that try to frame them as outsiders or even colonizers.
Ultimately, this first chapter really sets the stage for the rest of the book by grounding the Pandit story in this deep, ancient past. And it leaves us with a really powerful question to think about. In a world full of competing histories, what happens when the people who have been silenced finally find their voice?